In this episode of Gym Review, episode number 3, we will be reviewing Kinetix Lab, the Podium. But before we do go on for the full review, I do want to say, full disclosure, I did work for this gym back in 2019 and I'm still affiliated with them until this day. But do not worry, I will still give my honest opinion on how I think this gym is. And before the full review, here are the criteria. Here in Gym Review, we have 4 main criteria to guide us in giving our overall review of the gym. First up, we have location. This is where we discuss how accessible the gym actually is and if there are any worthwhile establishments nearby. Next up, we have to talk about the condition of the gym itself. This is where we will talk about how well the equipment is maintained as well as how clean and tidy the gym is. Afterwards, we'll talk about the pricing of the gym as well as the available payment methods. And finally, everyone's favorite, we have to talk about the available equipment that the gym has. And since every gym goer has their specific goals and training methods, we'll talk about the equipment from 4 different training perspectives: general strength and conditioning, powerlifting, bodybuilding, and finally, weightlifting. Starting it off with the location, this branch of Kinetix Lab is located in the 4th floor of the Podium Mall. Now, this is going to be really great if you're the type of person who goes to a cafe or restaurant before or after your workouts, and that's going to be really convenient on your end. And of course, you'll have access to SM Mega Mall right beside the Podium. But if you watched the previous episode, you would know by now that I'm not the biggest fan of going to a mall solely for the gym, because if you realize that you work out 3, 4, or 5 times a week, that's going to add a lot to your parking fees. So if you're going to be paying 50 to 70 pesos per gym visit on top of your gym membership, you're looking at around adding 600 to 800 pesos a month of added expenses. So again, it's not the end of the world, but because of that, I'm not going to be giving this a 10 out of 10. Instead, it's going to be a solid 8 out of 10. Now, for the condition of this gym, it opened back in 2019, so it's, a 4-year-old gym. But overall, it's still a pretty good looking gym. The moment that you enter it, you are going to know that the maintenance, the crew, they really do their best to keep the gym really clean. And that's a big plus because you don't want to work out in a gym that's dirty, dusty, or messy. So it's great to see that this gym is maintained quite well. But it's not going to be a perfect 10 out of 10 again, since this gym has been operating for 4 years, and that's not a long time. But the equipment, they've been really used and somewhat abused. They all work perfectly fine. So all the bars, the racks, the machines, the cardio equipment, all of them work perfectly well. But if you were to look at the finer details like their dumbbells, their plates, the bars, the deadlift platforms, and the racks itself, you are going to see a lot of scuff marks. But again, I don't want to minus a lot of points for that because everything is still going to be working perfectly. But because of those scuff marks, it's going to get a 9 out of 10, which is still a really good rating. Next up, let's talk about the pricing of Kinetix Lab, the Podium. So it's in the Podium, a very premium mall with a lot of premium shops, cafes, and restaurants. So you might think that the pricing of Kinetix Lab might be crazy expensive because of the location. But you'd be happy to know that the pricing is relatively fair. So it is a bit more expensive on a monthly perspective. The range is going to be anywhere from 2,750 pesos to 3,000 pesos. So just a bit more than the usual commercial gym here in the Philippines. But the premium part of it, or the expensive part of it, is that you can only become a member if you're able to pay for the full duration of your membership. So the specific pricing is that for 18,000 pesos, you can be a member for 6 months, or for 33,000 pesos, you'll be a member for 12 months. So if you do break it down into the respective months, it is a decent price. But because of that major hurdle of paying that one-time big-time payment, it is going to be a bit difficult for a lot of people. But again, this is a premium gym, so I guess the pricing is a bit more premium. And on top of that, unlike other commercial gyms like Anytime Fitness or Surge Fitness, wherein if you become a member of their gym, you will have access to all their branches. But here in Kinetix Lab, you can only be a member of the branch that you signed up for. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because you'll probably just be going to one branch, so you might not utilize all the other branches. But of course, it's hard to not compare it to the value that the other gyms do offer. And because of that, it's just going to be a 6 out of 10 when it comes to the pricing. And finally, everyone's favorite, let's talk about the equipment of Kinetix Lab, the Podium. So we are going to be rating this in 4 different training perspectives. The first one is going to be general fitness and or general strength and conditioning. Right off the bat, this gym is going to get a solid 10 out of 10 for me because the moment you walk in, you are going to see probably one of the longest and widest turf areas that you'd see in a commercial gym. And that's great for a lot of functional work, athletic work. You can use a lot of the dumbbells, kettlebells, slam balls, medicine balls, sandbags, and different strongman equipment actually on this turf area. And of course, you have all the free weights, all the machines, all the cardio equipment that you might want. Actually, they have a lot of different unique cardio equipment like a Stairmaster and a Jacob's ladder and this rope machine that I'm not too sure what the name is. But overall, if you're after just general fitness and strength and conditioning, this gym is going to be a great 10 out of 10. Now, when it comes to powerlifting, you are going to automatically see how great this gym is for powerlifting, especially once you get to the end of the gym. You're going to be seeing 3 deadlift platforms, 3 squat racks, a dedicated bench, and 2 combo racks. You're going to be seeing calibrated plates, calibrated bumper plates, a wide array of different specialty bars. You have a cambered bar, you have a buffalo bar, a safety squat bar. So when it comes to powerlifting, you might think that, oh, because I've listed all of that, it's going to be a strong 10 out of 10 as well. But I'm just going to be giving it a 9 out of 10. This is still pretty good, but the only reason why it's not a perfect 10 out of 10 is because in my experience, the platforms, though it's great that they exist, they're not necessarily the best platforms in the world. Sometimes the mats are uneven. So of course, if you're going to be deadlifting heavy, you don't want to do it on an uneven platform because it's just not the safest and it's not the most efficient. And then the number of 1.25 kilo plates that they have isn't abundant. So if they're going to be like 5 to 7 powerlifters at a time, and then they're going to be going for incremental jumps in their barbell weights, it might be a hard time to keep on sharing the 1.25 kilo plates. But again, it's still a great gym for powerlifting, a solid 9 out of 10. Now, when it comes to bodybuilding, this is also a fantastic gym to go for, but it's just going to be an 8 out of 10 for me. And you might be wondering why. If it has a lot of racks, machines, and an open area for whatever you'd want, why is it not a 10 out of 10? Well, this is just me nitpicking, but the number one reason why it's not a higher score than an 8, which is still pretty good, is because they don't have a Smith machine. I am a huge fan of the Smith machine when it comes to bodybuilding work or hypertrophy work. And it's not just me. Other lifters who are after bodybuilding do know the value that a Smith machine does provide. And they do have a cable crossover, but it's just one, and it's the compact version, which is still good. But I guess a lot of people would want the wider one, and they can just use a bit more machines. It's still pretty good, but 8 out of 10 is all that I'll be giving Kinetix Lab for bodybuilders. And finally, when it comes to weightlifting, it's going to be a 7 out of 10, which is a really, really good score. Sure, it might be the lowest one so far, but it's a good score for weightlifting because not a lot of gyms, or it's very rare to see a gym with weightlifting platform or dedicated weightlifting platforms. But the reason why it's not the perfect one is because, as I mentioned, the platforms aren't the best, or they're not the most even. You'd have to find that perfect sweet spot for it to be an even platform. And a big thing that I'm not a huge fan of is that their 5 kilo bumper plates are not the standard size for a bumper plate, which is kind of counterintuitive. I mean, it's still a good piece of equipment, but the fact that it's not the standard diameter, that might make it difficult, especially for people who are starting out to learn weightlifting. You'd want that standard height because that's a huge deal. I know they have some of them, but I know majority of their 5 kilo bumper plates are the smaller size. So that's me again nitpicking, but 7 out of 10 is still a great score. So if you're a weightlifter, this is going to be a great gym nonetheless for you to train in. And averaging out all the scores for the equipment, Kinetix Lab, the Podium, would get an 8.5 out of 10. But I'm going to bump up that score to 9 out of 10 because they have strongman equipment, which is, again, really, really rare for a commercial gym here in the Philippines to have. So they have a yoke, they have farmer's walk handles, they have sandbags, they have circus dumbbells. They have a lot of stuff for strongman training. And of course, it's not in the initial training perspectives, but that's a good bonus. So of course, that bonus is now going to bring them to a 9 out of 10 when it comes to equipment. So all in all, the overall score for Kinetix Lab, the Podium, is a very strong 8 out of 10. Sure, it's not a perfect gym, but it's a pretty good gym no matter who you are, if you're a beginner or if you're an advanced athlete, if you're a bodybuilder, weightlifter, strongman athlete, powerlifter. This is a great gym to go for. And because of that, I'm going to make a strong recommendation that if you are somebody who is looking for a gym in the Ortigas area, Kinetix Lab is probably going to be the best option for you. And on that note, that concludes this episode of Gym Review, Kinetix Lab, the Podium.